Hi, my name is Karina, and I'm the business owner of the Laundromat, self-service dog spa, and grooming salon. Our internet needed to be fast enough to handle multiple users. We have phones, tablets, and multiple workstations. At the end of a groom, we take the dog over to our picture station, and with Verizon Fios, it's super easy to just upload the picture quickly so I can get on to my next dog. To put us ahead of the competition, we needed to have service that was very reliable. Verizon came in and set it up, and I haven't really had to think about it since.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Melanie Spiegel from the Verizon Business Markets team, and I want to welcome you to the Verizon Small Business Webinar. Our monthly webinars bring leading small business experts straight to you, making it easy to keep up with the latest business trends. All sessions are recorded and available for viewing online at verizon.com/webinar a few days after the live broadcast. Our featured speaker today is Steve Strauss. Often called America's most popular small business columnist, Steve is a best-selling author and senior USA Today columnist. Steve is also an attorney, thought leader, and author of 17 books, including the Small Business Bible. I know that Steve has lots of valuable tips to share with you today to make it easier for more customers to find and choose your business. Steve, it's all yours.
Thank you, Melanie, and hello, everybody. Great to be here. I want to thank you for joining us today. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to work on your business, right? Not just in your business, as the famous saying goes. And I also want to thank our friends at Verizon for offering all of us this great platform. What we're going to be talking about today, getting customers to find and choose you, is, of course, very important to we small business people. I grew up in a small business family. I bet many of you did. It seems to run in the blood. And one thing I know is that it is not always easy. It's often not easy getting customers to find and choose you. And in fact, I suggest that it is more challenging than ever. There is just so much competition now for eyeballs. There's so much competition for people's attention. We all have shorter attention spans, and so getting someone to notice us and notice our business and pay attention to us, and then even to come and buy from us, that's a bit of a trick. But fortunately, you have your friend Steve here today to help you, and your friends from Verizon here to help you. And I think what you'll find is that I'm going to give you a really nice, easy, actionable process that is going to allow you to take your business to the next level. So I did practice law for many years, as Melanie mentioned. I came to my senses long ago. I don't practice anymore, but I first came across this idea of getting customers to find and choose you back when I did practice law, because I had a lot of customers who came in the door who were successful, and several who weren't, and I have gone on to create a nice name and brand for myself, and I have also gone on to create a nice content business. So this idea of getting customers to find and choose you is really important. Now, the problem is twofold, I think. One is, often when you're in business, what you don't want to do is be like this guy, right? Sometimes when we're in business, it is like being alone in a dark room. You know you're there, but no one else does. The key is, the thing that you want to do is, you want to turn on the light. And how do you turn on the light? Well, you turn on the light by advertising your business, by marketing your business, by using the different tools I'm going to mention and share with you today. And so what happens then is, everybody hears about you, right? And then you're able to take your business on and not only get found, but get chosen. So one problem is, there are not a few people who think that simply word of mouth or their nice location or whatever it may be is going to be enough to get them found and chosen to create a great business. But it really isn't enough, especially, as I said today. There are a lot of businesses in the United States. There's 30 million businesses in the United States, and 99% of those are small businesses. That's a lot of competition. Beyond that, of course, we're all online now, and you have online competition from not just down the street and down in your city or even in the country, but globally. So you have to do more than just throw up a website and hope for the best, or rely on word-of-mouth advertising and hope for the best. That said, sometimes the problem is this, and that is there may be too many choices, right? The opposite problem that many people have when they look at advertising and marketing and growing their business is that instead of doing nothing, they want to do too much, or they get overwhelmed with the choices. I mean, do you do Google ads or SEO or pay-per-click? Facebook is as always in the news, right? Do you create a great page and get a lot of likes, or maybe do some Facebook advertising? We hear a lot about e-newsletters even still today. We all know we need a website. Do you put a lot of attention to your website, or maybe there's physical promotions and maybe it's in-person networking, there's advertising? Yes, there are a lot of different ways to get your message out, to get found and get chosen. What I want to share with you is I think there's really a nice 5-step process to doing that. So, how findable are you? Well, let's take a look. Here are the 5 keys to getting found and getting chosen. 1, you want to create a desirable brand. Of course, I'm going to drill down into each one of these throughout the webinar. This is the overview of what we're going to be talking about today. We'll spend a little time talking about your brand and how to create a brand that people want. All right? Then you're going to have to use the different tools that are available to you that reinforce that brand. You're going to have to drill into SEO, search engine optimization, and social. You're also going to have to do some advertising, and then we'll talk about repetition and how important repetition is to getting your message out there. But the first thing any of us have to do if you're going to get found and get chosen is to create a great brand. You know, I love this quote by Gene Simmons of Kiss. We all know Kiss. Now, when you think of the band Kiss, what do you think of? Well, you probably think of, you know, their wild makeup or maybe some crazy shows, and we probably all have some tunes in our head. But Gene Simmons says, you know, I like being in a rock and roll band, but I love being in a rock and roll brand. Now that is very clever, right? I like being in a rock and roll band, but I love being in a rock and roll brand. And by the way, Gene Simmons and Kiss are worth $1 billion, $1 billion, right? With a B. So these are guys who know something a little bit about business, and they know that, yeah, going up on stage and, you know, playing the same song again and again is fine, but it is the brand that pays the bills. And it's not just true for Gene Simmons and Kiss, and it's not just true for McDonald's or Coca-Cola or anyone else you might want to think about. It's especially true for the small business, right? There are so many benefits to having a great brand. I mean, look at here, our friends from Verizon. That's such an identifiable brand with great name recognition and positive feelings when you think about it, right? And Apple has had great success as well. There is the Apple logo there. And I am not here today to read bullet points from a PowerPoint slide to you, but I do want to go over these bullet points right here because I think they're really important. And I really want you to think about what your brand is. So many small businesses, when they have a business, they have a brand, but it's usually a brand by default and not design. And what I want you to do is create a brand by design and not default, because if you create a great brand, one that stands out from the crowd, one that's based on values that people find, you know, that resonate with people and is identifiable and memorable, boy, look at these benefits. More income potential, right? A great brand, you might make more money. You're going to get more consistent business. There's an aura of success of, you know, the different brands I've already mentioned to you today, right? If you think about those, well, you know, there is an aura of success and credibility. There comes with a great brand, a good brand, a memorable brand, credibility, and it does create something that's top of mind. Oh, I need phone service, I need internet, my friend from Verizon, my friends from Verizon, that kind of thing, right? There is perceived value, and brands are considered different and better. Brands are considered different and better. So, look, all these are things that are available to us as small business people if we would only create that great brand. So how do we do it? Well, there are 6 steps to branding success. One is you want to identify where your brand is today and think about whether that's where you want it to be. All right? Is that really what you want your brand to be? You want to look at your market, look at your X factor, and choose your tools and launch a campaign. This is the overview of how you create a great brand. Now, when you think about where your brand is and where you want it to be, one of the things that's really critical is thinking about your target market, because you need to know who you're trying to sell to and who's going to be most likely to buy from you, and what it is they would like and think about in a brand. So is your target market, for example, this guy, right, this hipster, or is your target market, these guys, or whoever the case may be, and how you're going to create a brand that attracts the hipster there on the right versus these wealthier or executives up here on the left is very different. So you want to think about what your brand is and who your market is and how do they perceive you. And then whether that is how you want to be perceived. And if it's not, how is it that you want to be perceived? So that these different people will take you seriously. They will, remember your brand when it comes to wanting to buy something. So what is that? Well, one of the things you have to think about is, what is your X factor? What is it about your business that is unique and different and special? What is it about your business that is unique and different and special? Because that is what you really kind of need to base your brand on. I'll give you an example. Not too long ago, my wife and I went down to Mexico, to a little fishing village, which I shall not mention the name so as not to spoil it. And we had an idyllic time, and it was great, and the kids were frolicking in the beach, and it was altogether lovely. And every morning we would go over to this little cantina for breakfast. Now, why would we go to this one place? Well, it was delicious, and the food, the huevos rancheros were great, and it was full of both locals and lots of expats. But it wasn't any of those things. It was the fact that this is the only place in town that had free Wi-Fi. And they let you know it all through town. Wherever you went, it would say, come to Restaurante Jose, free Wi-Fi. And in a little fishing village, in a little place like this, that was, for this small business, its X factor. It did something that was unique and different and special, and then it let everyone know that it did do something unique and different and special, and that kept it crowded all day long. It brought us there every day because I wanted to check my email. We all wanted to get online for a little bit, not too long, but it really did make a big difference. So what I want you to do is the same thing, and that is think about what you do that is unique and different and special, and then you want to begin to build your brand around that thing. That is really the key step, because once you have that brand and that thing, then you can start getting your name out there, and people will like it and remember it. One thing I want to also suggest is to really think about the name of your business. Now, I'm not telling you to rename your business, but if you are starting a business, one of the very easiest, best, and most powerful ways that you can get people to remember your business and understand what your benefit is by having a name that is memorable and that tells people what the benefit of the business is. So, for example, in The Simpsons, there's the Quickie Mart, right? Well, all of a sudden you get what that is. It's a fast little mart. Or Jiffy Lube, or Baja Fresh. These are businesses with names of, and has the benefits of the business in the name. That's a great thing. Now, if you already have a business and you don't want to rename your business, but you do want to have an X factor, you want to create a brand that's memorable, then you really need to have a great tagline. And if you have a great tagline and use it throughout your marketing, on your website, in your social, in your advertising, in your email, everywhere, use that tagline again and again and again, people will start to associate your business with whatever that tagline is, and you will then create that brand that people like. Now, step 2. Once you have created a brand that speaks to your audience, that has a name and or a tagline that is memorable, then what we need to do is use the different tools that reinforce that brand. And there are, of course, so many tools available to us today, and let's look at what some of those are. There is your website. There is something called retargeting, which I will explain in a second. There are e-newsletters. There's mass media and co-op ads. There's public relations, PR. Any and all of these are different ways to get found. We're into the get found part of this, right? So you have a name and business that works, that's interesting, and then we're going to have it get found. I have a picture here of a billboard and Carpet World, Elegance and Underfoot. I mentioned that I grew up in a small business family. My dad was the best marketer I ever knew. And at the end of his career, after 17 years growing a business very, very big, his favorite advertising was having a billboard on the San Diego freeway in Los Angeles. And it said Carpet World, Elegance Underfoot, and then at the far right it said featuring Band Lawn Carpets. And this is a tool I want to share with all of you because any of us can use it to really get our name out there. Well, Band Lawn, which is one of his wholesalers, paid for 65% of that ad. Now, how great was that? This is called co-op advertising. You can see it in my 4th bullet point right there, co-op ads. All right, so my dad had this fantastic billboard. Hundreds of thousands of people drove by it every day, and he only paid for 35% of it because he used this tool called co-op advertising. Co-op advertising is a thing where you have a wholesaler or a manufacturer that you work with, and you agree to mention their product in your ad. You mention their product in your ad, and they will give you co-op ad dollars to help pay for that ad. So it's a fantastic tool for any small business to grow their business, and you can use it on a billboard, you can use it on television, you can use it online, you can use it in radio, magazines, almost any mass media is a place where you can use co-op advertising. So the way to find out about co-op advertising is to speak with the rep of your different wholesalers and distributors and manufacturers and find out whether they have a co-op advertising program. And if they do, woohoo, off to the races you go. All right, so there's a nice little trick we can use to get our name out there. So beyond that, the first thing I mentioned was your website. We all know we need to have a website, and if you don't have a website, you better get a website, because not having a website these days is what I call, small business malpractice. And yet, studies show that 40%, almost up to 50% of all small businesses still do not have a website. So assuming you're on this call, then I'm going to assume you have a website because you're here and you're digitally savvy. So, but beyond just having a website, what you really want to do is have a sticky website. Now, what's a sticky website? Well, that's a website that gets people to stick around. So all of a sudden, they found your name, they found your brand, they want to check you out, because what do you do when you hear about a new business? Well, you do what I do, and you do what we all do, and that is you go online and you check out the business. So when people come to your website, what is it they're going to find? If they just find an e-billboard, that's fine, but I think that you might want to do something more. So you want to create a website that keeps people on the website. One easy way, of course, is to have video. Have you watched an online video today? I bet if you are like most of us, you have. All right, video is, needless to say, very hot, but in terms of small business and growing your business, it's an amazing tool because people love video. Put video on your homepage, studies show people will click it and watch it. And how often do you get someone's uninterrupted attention for 3 to 5 minutes online? Well, not very often, but you do get it when you have a clever, funny, sticky video on your website. And the great news is that these days it's not that hard to create a video. It's definitely not expensive to create a great video, but given that people watch it, create some videos, put it on your website, makes your website sticky. You can create a blog. Blogs are SEO, meaning search engine optimized friendly, right? If you just create a little blog and you write about your business and you write about what's going on in the industry, and you don't have to be Ernest Hemingway, you can just, be yourself. People will comment on it, and all of a sudden you're creating this nice little interaction with your audience. You can have a podcast. Podcasts are so popular these days, as we all know, and they're easy to start, they're easy to create, and even if you're getting 100 people to listen to your podcast, well, that's 100 more. One of the things I want you to notice is I'm going to give you so many different ways to get your name out there. Eventually, you're going to be getting in front of new ears and new eyes and new people because they may read the blog or they may not read the blog. If they don't read the blog, someone might find your podcast. And if they don't hear your podcast, well, maybe they saw your video that you shared on your social media. What I'm telling you is to cast a really wide net because none of these tools are expensive, but they all are effective, and especially, of course, on your website they're effective, but it allows you to continue to try to find a new audience, and that's what we want to do. E-newsletters, really great. I mentioned my dad, he had a banner in his corporate warehouse that said, "Our word of mouth advertising starts with you." After 20 years in business, word of mouth, he knew, was the most effective form of advertising, was his favorite. Well, what is word of mouth today? Well, word of mouth today is what I call word of click. Right, so if someone takes your e-newsletter and forwards it on to someone else, that's word of click. If someone likes your tweet, right, and retweets it, that's word of click. If someone likes your Facebook page, that's word of click. These are all great ways to get word of mouth advertising. You can have forums and polls, and hey, what are we doing today? We're having a webinar. So we know webinars work. So these are all great ways and great tools that allow you to, get your name out, get people to your website, and then once they get to your website, stick around and allow you to reinforce that brand that we spent time creating. Retargeting. So we all know this. You go online and let's say you want to buy a pair of ski gloves, and so you do a little search and you look at some ski gloves and I don't like those ski gloves, I'm going to keep searching, and then boy, those ski gloves, how is it they show up wherever you go online for the next week, right? Well, that's a little tool that big business knows about called retargeting that we small businesses can use as well. I mean, if the idea is to get people to find and notice and remember and choose you, well, you have to get in front of them more than once usually. A lot of times it's 5 or 6 or 7 touches, as they say, before someone will choose to buy from you. One way to reinforce what it is that you offer, your value proposition, is to advertise with retargeting. So it's just a little piece of code that you put on your website, and then when people go on, surfing on their way, they will, at the right time, see your ad again. And maybe the second or third or fourth time they see your ad, they'll think, oh man, I really did love those ski gloves. I'm going to go back and buy them. So retargeting, a great tool any of us can use. It's flexible, it's easy, it's affordable, it really doesn't cost very much. But I would suggest that it really is a neat way to have those touches and to reinforce your name because, people move on, and they may not remember they ever went to your website, or they may bookmark it and lose it in all their bookmarks, whatever the case may be. Retargeting, an easy way to stay at top of mind. And top of mind is one of the things we want, for sure. Okay, I mentioned e-newsletters previously. I am still a big fan of e-newsletters for all sorts of reasons, but if you think about what an e-newsletter is, it is an opt-in marketing tool. So you go to a website and you see that they have an e-newsletter and you like it, well, you have to opt in, right? You have to tell them that you want to receive it and give them your email address. right? And the same thing is true on your website. Someone comes to your website, we have a great e-newsletter, we'd love to share it with you. Opt in, please. Well, what you're doing when you opt in is giving someone permission to market to you. You're giving someone permission to contact you. You're giving someone permission to communicate with you. That's a very unique and beautiful thing, and it doesn't happen very often that you have a marketing tool that people want to hear from you. They're telling you, I like what you say you offer, and I would like to hear from you. And if you remember the 80-20 rule, then they're going to really like your e-newsletter. Well, the 80-20 rule traditionally is that 80% of your profits come from 20% of your products, or 80% of your profit comes from 20% of your customers. I flipped the 80-20 rule here a little bit, and I want to tell you that what you should do in your e-newsletter is have 80% of your e-newsletter be about your customers and what their needs are, and tools and articles and videos that would be of interest to them. And if you do that, then 20% can be about you. Too many small businesses don't do it right. They make 80% about them and 20% about the customer. That doesn't work. What works is 80% about the customer, 20% about you. Then you're going to get word of click. Then people are going to forward on your e-newsletter, and they're going to like it and like you, and you're going to, again, get new people to find your business. Now, there's a second way that I really enjoy when it comes to getting your name out there, and that is not to only have your own e-newsletter, but to advertise in someone else's e-newsletter. This is a really cool little tool. So let's say you sell wedding products. Well, you can go and find a big wedding site online. You can have your own e-newsletter, sure, but maybe you find a big wedding site, and you want to advertise in their e-newsletter. Oh my God, think about how amazing that is. It's not going to be very expensive because you're not doing mass media. You're only getting, a few thousand eyeballs, but those few thousand eyeballs and those few thousand customers are very targeted, right? These are people who've opted in as well, and it's a wedding e-newsletter, and you're going to advertise in their wedding e-newsletter. These are going to be people very engaged, your exact target market, and they're going to probably be very interested in what you advertise. So it's very targeted, it's very inexpensive, and it's very effective advertising in someone else's e-newsletter. So both of those are really great tools you can use to reinforce your brand and get your name out there. Then the last part of this section of the webinar that I want to mention is public relations, PR. PR is one of the best things you can do to get your name out there and to get people to notice and find you, and then eventually come to your website or come to your business and choose you. But getting that reporter, editor, producer to do a story about your business, not so easy. Look, I've written for USA Today for 20 years under small business columnist. I get pitched too many times a day, and so I'm going to give you the insider tips on how you get an editor, writer, columnist, in my case, to do a story about you. What you don't want to do is this, and this is the public relations. No, dear Mr. Strauss, for your editorial consideration, I'm not going to read all this. Please see the press release below, and then it's company X acquires company Y, blah, 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 the status leading of a leading site, delivering advanced alternative options. Oh my God, who cares? I didn't care. And if you received this email, you wouldn't care. So how do you get a writer, producer, columnist, reporter to do a story about you? You have to come up with a unique angle and not send them a press release, but you're going to send them a short, pithy, clever email. Dog bites man is not news, but man bites dog is news. That's the takeaway that I want to share with you. And it seems simple, but it's not simple. You have to come up with something unique. Man bites dog is unique and different, right? A little clever for this. In the case of whatever your business is, I would tell you, don't come up with a story about your business because no one really wants to do a puff piece about your business. But if there is a news story, a local angle, something that your business can be seen as the resource, as the expert, something like that, then you can come up with not a press release, but an email, have a clever headline, clever subject line, share it with the right reporter or editor who covers your area and would be interested in your business, and all of a sudden you're going to get some PR. And once you get that story about your business, whether it's a TV story or a blog or it's a column like I write, whatever the case may be, then you can put that on your website. You can have maybe some video, right? And share it, and forevermore, that's going to give you instant credibility. It is not you saying your business is great. It is someone else saying your business is great. So PR, a really valuable tool to get found and get chosen. Next, SEO and social media. Of course, these are tools too, but these are specific, important tools that I want to spend a little extra time on because they're so important. So SEO, as I have mentioned several times, is search engine optimization. It is getting to the top of Google or whatever search engine you like to use. Not so easy, but important. But how do you do it? Well, look, at SEO would be and is a webinar in and of itself, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on how you do it because it's very, very complicated. It can be, but there are some easy things you can do, and that's what we're going to go over right here to make your website and web pages more search engine friendly. And one of the beauties of search is that the longer you have a page up, the more it gets indexed by the Google, search engine spiders and the different search engine spiders, and you get some credibility just by length of doing some work. So here's what I would suggest. You want to create specific pages for keywords and key phrases. So just having one main web page, home page for your business, fine, but not really what you want to do if you're thinking about SEO. So I mentioned gloves. I'm going to use that gloves example again here. You might want to write an article, the greatest gloves in the world, okay, and create a specific page about that glove. And then you might want to blog about those gloves. And then you might want to add some video about those incredible gloves. And then you might want to link to other sites, and there are lots of SEO plugins you can use, especially if you use WordPress like so many of us do on their website. There's some great, Yoast is one, but there's all sorts of different tools available out there that you can use to create SEO as you're creating your blog on the back end. And this is what you want to do. So not just generally have a website about your business, but if you're trying to sell the greatest ski glove in the world, well, create an article about it, blog about it, create a video about it, link to glove sites about it. Those are all things that search engines look at when they analyze a website, when they analyze a web page, and tend to rank a page higher because it's got keywords and key phrases in it, and it's linked to other resources, and it's important and valuable information. Google's always changing its algorithm. It's very hard to stay on top of what the algorithm wants at any given time, but generally speaking, what you want to do is create a great web page with lots of great information with some links and kind of refresh it. And if you do that and you keep it up, as I mentioned, keep it going, well, that page, as time goes by, generally will tend to get ranked higher and higher. And that's one of the great things. Now, if you end up on page one of Google, it is free advertising for forevermore. I have a website called The Self-Employed, and we wrote an article. It doesn't really matter what the article was. It was about how to make money on inexpensive businesses, and it ranks on page one of Google all the time. It gets us so much traffic. Never quite expected it, but we ended up doing what I mentioned to you, which is we update it frequently. We linked it to some videos. We used an SEO plugin, and it turned out to be a great article. And that one article, because it's ranked so high on Google, brings us a lot of traffic. And you can do the same thing and just do these things and be patient. Now, here I've gone over this. There are pros and cons for SEO. It's free, quote unquote. It does take time. It's long lasting, but it is time consuming and it's a little challenging. So I love SEO when it works. But I would say, don't bet the bank on it because it's not the easiest thing in the world. But it's important for us to know about, and worth creating a couple of specific web pages on our website that are really uber SEO friendly because that'll, eventually make a difference. Beyond SEO is social media marketing. We all hear the drumbeat of social media, right? We got to be on Facebook. You got to be on Facebook. You got to be on Twitter. You got to be on Instagram. Well, it's true and it's not true. Of course, that is where people tend to generate online these days on the different social media sites. And if that's where our customers are, well, that's where we need to be. So that alone is very important. And more, and especially with millennial customers who are increasingly important to all of us, having them find you on social media is important, because people tend to often these days make decisions with regard to buying based on something they see on social media. I'm sure you've had that happen. I, of course, have had that happen. Most of us have. So social media for sure is important. The problem is that it can be a time drain and a money drain, all those kind of things. So how do you do it? Well, there's a book I would suggest you might want to read. It's called 30-Minute Social Media Marketing. I really like it. 30-Minute Social Media Marketing. It gives you a really nice, so I wish I had written it, but I didn't. But it gives you a really nice, process for how to market your business in 30 minutes a day. And that sounds great, right? Because we know what can really happen is, you go on to Facebook and you're going to do some marketing, you're going to do some research, and the next thing you know, 2 hours have gone by and you're watching kitten videos. And we don't want that. What we want to do is be kind of strategic about our social media. So you want to pick the sites that your customers tend to go to. Not the sites that you like, but we talked early on in this thing about your brand and who your target market is. Where does your target market go? If you're aiming for a younger demographic, then Instagram might be the site for you, even though you like Facebook. If you tend to have an older audience or something like that, maybe Facebook is the site for you. If it's, and how do you know? You ask your customers. Do a poll. Find out either in your store or online what social media sites they tend to go to, and then you'll target those sites. Then you want to create some content that will resonate with people on the different sites. You're going to share it. You're going to make it personal, because one of the things we don't want with social media is just to be a billboard that just has no interaction. What works with social media is engagement. So you post something, someone likes it, you respond to it, they comment on it, you respond to it. Your voice on your social media reinforces the brand that you're trying to create. If you do all those things, then you're going to have a social media presence that resonates with people, and then they're going to find you on your social media. They're going to maybe go to your website. They're going to maybe go to your store. They're going to maybe just click to buy, whatever the case may be. But if you do all those things, then your word of click is going to work, and your social media marketing is going to work, and you're going to be happy that you did that. So it's strategic. It doesn't need to be a whole lot more than 30 minutes a day. You create some great content, some videos, whatever it is, get it out there, engage with people on it, and you're going to find that people are going to respond to it and come and use you. So there are a couple different tools. We can use Facebook for business, of course. I don't need to go really into the details, but we all know how big Facebook is and how important it is, and I think that is both the good news and the bad news. The good news is everyone's on Facebook, and the bad news is everyone's on Facebook, so that you're getting in front of everyone who comes to Facebook, but there is so much competition there, it's a little hard to stand out from the crowd. But you can advertise there. You can use, a lot of companies don't even have a website. As much as that upsets me, they use their Facebook page as their website. You certainly can engage with people on Facebook. It's a great way for retail businesses. You have a contest, you can post some pictures, you can engage. One of the problems with Twitter is, even though they've expanded their character limit, doubled it in fact, it's a little harder to engage with people back and forth. It's certainly very easy on Facebook. And if you have a business that lends itself to that, then Facebook for Business, of course, is very great. Twitter is different, right? The different social media platforms do different things. Twitter tends to be really good for becoming a thought leader. Let's say you are a lawyer, right? And you specialize in intellectual property law. Twitter would be a great tool for you. You can post little tweets about intellectual property. You can link to articles. You can link to articles you've written. It's a very good tool for a quick in and out and to become a thought leader. It's also great for prospecting. The hashtag tool on not just Twitter but Facebook too, and other social media sites, allows you to find what people are talking about. So in my case, I talk about small business. I'll search the hashtag small business and I'll find people who I didn't know were out there, and maybe I'll engage with them and get to meet them. The person who taught me about Twitter was really interesting. During the recession of 2008, she did PR. Her business fell off a cliff because of the recession. She decided that instead, what she's going to do is try Twitter. She didn't know what else to do, so she did the hashtag public relations, and she found a lot of public relations discussions going on Twitter, and she kept engaging in these discussions, and then she ended up, getting to know the people that she was engaging with, and her business actually grew that year in 2009, not because she ended up with 10,000 Twitter followers, but because she made new relationships. The beauty of social media, among other things, is that it allows you to meet people you otherwise would not normally meet. And that's a really valuable thing in and of itself. So you can meet new people, grow your business, create new relationships, and get some social media juice by getting followers. Next is advertising. So we went over SEO, we went over social. Advertising, another way, obviously, to get your name out there, to get found and get chosen. Pay per click. You do a Google search and you can find pay-per-click ads. You go into Facebook, you can, of course, find ads where you can click and go buy. Those kind of things are all over different sites. So Chris Johnson, I'll quickly tell you, is a photographer who specializes in wedding photography. So he decided he was going to do some Facebook ads. One of the beauties of Facebook advertising, and any online advertising for that matter, is that you can specifically micro-target who you're looking to reach. So whereas with older forms of business, TV or radio back in the day, you had to have a big budget because you reached so many people. What's fantastic about online pay-per-click advertising is that you can micro-target who's going to see your ad, and then you're going to only pay for it once someone sees your ad, likes it, and clicks on it. So Chris Johnson went on Facebook and he said only people in these 8 zip codes would see his ad. It was only women whose status was engaged would see his ads, and he had 3 or 4 other criteria. So he decided that those were the people that were most likely to buy his wedding photography services. And with his $800 purchase of advertising, he grew his business $40,000 the next year. Well, that's pretty amazing for any small business. Now, you don't want to do what your friend Steve did, which is I once did an ad when I first started doing all this for a small business speaker, because I'm a small business speaker, and I ended up paying a lot of money for those people who wanted small business speakers that looked like that there on the right. Different kind of small business speaker. Point being, if you do a little research, you can target properly and watch your budget. You can spend $100, you can spend $1,000, whatever the case may be, but whatever it is if people are finding your ad and then clicking on it and coming to your website, well, that's great. There's so many different places you can do these ads, Google or Facebook with our friends at Verizon. The key is you want to set a budget, review your budget, see what you're spending, see what's getting clicks, tweak as necessary. You can, change your ad any day. It used to be you create an ad and it shows up in the newspaper and, oh, it worked or it didn't work. But today, hour by hour, you can check your ad, see what's working. That's an amazing thing. Pay-per-click is one of my favorite tools. Learn how to use it, and you're going to create a profit center for your business where people will find you and choose you and like you, click your ad, and you're getting a qualified lead, and that is marketing gold, as we say. You can advertise on Twitter and Facebook. I mean, look at this. Here on Twitter, you can create an ad campaign that is for awareness, or that gets you followers, or gets you website clicks or in conversions, that creates engagement. Now, that little graphic right there I pulled right from the Twitter website. If you go to Twitter and go to, advertising, you'll see this pop up, and all of a sudden, I want more followers. Well, you're not going to go to one of those farms that create a bunch of creepy bad followers. You can go through Twitter and create some real followers doing advertising or engagement or clicks to your website, whatever the case may be. All those things will work. You can do the same thing on Facebook. You can do the same thing on Instagram. And so my last point is you've created this brand, you've done your SEO, you have your website, you have a great social media presence, you're doing some pay-per-click ads. People can find you and hopefully choose you, but how will they choose you? Well, the secret is repetition is the key. Repetition is the key. Repetition is the key. So, pop quiz. What's the key? Right, it's repetition. You need to allow people to see your ad, to see your social, to see your pay-per-click ad again and again and again and again. And once that happens, it'll start to seep into their brain. It'll start to seep into their subconscious. And then the next time they see it, oh, you know what? I do need those ski gloves. I remember that site. I've seen those ads follow me, or I've seen that website several times, or however it works. If you use this repetition model and you do what I've told you, then people will like the brand they see. They'll remember it. They'll come back to it, and you will be very happy, and you grow your business as a result. So, for example, if I said just do it, right? Repetition is the key. Well, we know that's Nike, right? Or we'll leave the light on for you. We know that was Motel 6. Or can we hear me now? Right, we heard that from Verizon, of course. Right? If you hear those great ads again and again, you use your catchphrase again and again, you use your marketing again and again, repetition, people will remember and find and choose you. So I want to thank you for your time today. Happy to answer questions. And we definitely have some good questions here. By the way, if you want to ask a question, please just ask your question in the question pane there, and hopefully we can get to it. The first one I have is this. It says, Steve, do you think following an outside-the-box plan can help or hurt? And I want to answer that in two ways. When it comes to your business, I definitely suggest that you don't follow, for the most part, an outside-the-box plan. Often somebody will come up with an idea for a business, and it's clever and creative and new and different, and they think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And maybe it is, and maybe it isn't. The challenge is when you start a business, it is the riskiest time in business. You generally don't have any customers yet. No one knows who you are yet. You've put out a lot of money, typically. So that is a time where you want to be a little more conservative with your plan. And if you see other businesses doing something successful, then I think you can follow what they do. If you love 18th century Flemish architecture, that's interesting, but it may not make a great business. It's outside the box thinking, and you may think there's a need for that kind of consultant, but maybe there isn't. So generally, I would say that when it comes to running your business, the way things tend to go and the tried and true works. But when it comes to this idea of digital marketing and getting found and getting chosen, I do agree that some outside the box thinking works really well. In fact, I wrote a column about this for USA just recently. If you think back a month or two ago, we all remember Elon Musk had this company called SpaceX, and he launched a heavy Falcon rocket into orbit. Now, nobody really remembers that, but what they do remember, and what you'll remember when I mention this to you, is that picture of a cherry red Tesla with an astronaut, quote unquote, flying through space in front of Earth, right? And now that is some outside the box thinking. So what they did was, in their Falcon X rocket, they launched a Tesla. Some great publicity for Elon Musk and for space. Tesla altogether, it worked for everybody. That's some outside the box thinking, and I really like that. It used to be called a publicity stunt, but coming up with a different, clever, creative idea works because there is so much noise today. There is so much. There are so many people vying for our attention that doing something a little different definitely works. I mean, think about Amazon. Amazon gets a lot of press, a lot. One of the things they did is a couple of years ago, right before the holidays, we also saw those drones delivering packages. Now, I bet you haven't gotten a drone delivery yet. I haven't gotten a drone delivery yet, but we all remember the drone delivery because it was a little outside the box thinking, and it got Amazon a lot of attention. So we as small business people have to do that. Now, we don't have the budget of Tesla. We don't have the budget of Amazon. But we can still be clever and creative. I'll give you an example. I mentioned my dad previously. One time at one of his carpet stores, he brought an elephant to a to a sidewalk sale. Well, it was back in the days when you kind of could do those things a little easier, but it definitely got him a lot of attention. I once had a client who owned a bakery, and she was trying to get some publicity. How was she going to do it? Well, finally came up with this idea of she was going to have a contest, the best banana bread in town contest. Tons of people entered. She got a lot of publicity in the local news, and it ended up becoming an annual event. So I think that could work for really any of us. I do think out-of-the-box thinking when it comes to your digital marketing, to getting found, getting chosen, definitely works. All right, let's see here. We have some more questions. Here's one about a tagline. Do you have any suggestions for how to create a great tagline? Well, a tagline is definitely important. I mentioned it previously. One of the things I talked about is this idea of having a business name that reflects the benefits of your business. Now, that's not always possible to do. Often it's impossible to do because you have a business, and the business has been around for 10 years, and the business name is the business name. But, your tagline can serve the same purpose. I think it's kind of actually amazing. If I ask you, what's the happiest place on earth? Well, it's Disneyland, of course, because they've used that tagline again and again and again. And the great thing is, we associate that phrase with Disneyland. Now, that is some pretty darn good marketing. So any of us can do that. If you can come up with a great tagline and then use it on your website, use it in your social, use it in your marketing, eventually, because as I said, repetition is the key, people will start to associate that tagline with your business. So how do you do it? Well, I do have a couple steps I think you can take. One is when you want to come up with a tagline, focus on the benefit. I have a website that I run called The Self-Employed, and our tagline is "Your gig just got easier," because we wanted to give a benefit. The benefit is your gig just got easier, right? Well, what is it about your business that is the benefit to people? You want to start to think about creating a tagline along those lines. Definitely want to consider what your brand is, right? Your slogan has to resonate, and it's going to resonate if it reflects your business's values and personality and things like that, right? Like the happiest place on earth. That really does exemplify what Disneyland is supposed to be about. It's important to keep it simple. One thing you'll notice with the taglines that I've mentioned previously is they are one quick, short sentence. And then finally, I would say test it. Think about your benefit, consider the brand, keep it simple, but then you want to test it. So you write out a couple different versions of your tagline, and you share it with people that you know and trust and see what they think of it as well. All right, we have some more questions. Oh, here's one about PR. Hold on one second. I tried to get PR and press several times. It never seemed to work. I see now that my press release was a mistake. Any other tips? Well, yeah, for sure. So I get, as I mentioned, pitched all day, every day, and I think the key is this idea that I mentioned about having a good story is really, really important. So that coming up with that man bites dog angle is key, but then what's more key is the email pitch. The reason you don't want to pitch with a press release is you're busy these days, I'm busy these days, everyone is super busy these days. And how do we all communicate? Well, we all communicate generally through email. So if that's how it's done, then that is how it's done. That was what you should do. And what do you want to see when you're a busy person and you get an email from somebody? Well, short, snappy, to the point. So come up with a great subject line, have your pitch ready in the email, and then make sure you make it personal. I can't really stress enough how important this is. Another problem with sending a press release is that it is just so impersonal. What works, at least for me, and I think this is true for most writers, reporters, columnists, producers, editors, is having someone who knows who they are and what they do. And these days with the internet, that's not hard to figure out. And then pitching their story specifically to that person, maybe even throwing them a compliment. We all have egos. I like it when someone says, "Hey, Steve, I read a recent column you wrote about X, Y, or Z. It really was great. okay, that's at least I know that that person knows what they're doing. So I think that really can make a difference as well. All right, we have some. Oh, here's a question. What are your thoughts on radio ads? I love radio. I love radio, and I'm going to give you a way to advertise on radio very inexpensively. So first of all, we all think, oh, the internet. We got to advertise on the internet, and but this idea that we started with is by doing something different. Well, if everyone's advertising in one place, if you can advertise somewhere else, I think that's great. People listen to the radio, small business people listen to the radio, consumers, your customers listen to the radio in their car, at work, all the time. It's really quite popular still. The problem is it can be very expensive. I mean, if you look at a drive time, I'll say that again. If you go to purchase time in a big radio station in your city or area during drive time, it's going to be very expensive. Now, it may be worth it because you're going to get exposure, but the key that I've been harping on about repetition is really important when it comes to radio. You really have to have your message out there again and again, many times for people to hear it and then actually take action on it. So you have to have similarly, a great ad with a powerful call to action. Now, one way to inexpensively get radio time is to buy overnight time on that same station. So that big, 50,000 watt station in your area during the day is very expensive. Overnight, they still may have some pretty great numbers, but it's going to cost you, 1/10. A drive time ad might cost you $750 during drive time. Overnight, it might cost you $25. So that's for a minute. So that's pretty amazing, and it's a good little, marketing trick that definitely works. I got time for just a couple more questions. I'm finding that my target market is conservative and not very forward-thinking with regard to social media marketing. How do you build a brand with this market? So it's the same as you would build a brand with any market, and that is, as I've said, you want to think about what your customers want. A mistake so often small business people make is that they think they know what's great and they don't get feedback on it. And I know my customers, and you do know your customers, but you really want to make sure you're attracting, not what you think is good, but what your customers think is good. So if your customers, for example, are on Facebook, then that's where you need to be. And if your customers don't go on Facebook and they listen to the radio, then that's where they need to be. And if they listen to the radio and they listen to talk radio versus alternative rock, then you need to think about that. So whatever your demographic is, your brand needs to reflect that so that it resonates with them. And a great brand turns some people off, okay? Because it'd be nice if we had a business that attracted everyone, but not everybody wants to buy a Rolls Royce. Right, but Rolls-Royce, for the right people who want that kind of car, they try and target their marketing to that person. So, but it turns off a lot of other people. Not turns off, but a lot of other people aren't interested in it. So your marketing should do the same. Your brand should do the same. Think about who your customers are, target them, and don't worry that it may not be attracting other people, because we don't really worry about that with our marketing. It would be great if we got them, but not necessarily. Why is Facebook considered used by more older adults than younger ones? And Instagram for younger ones, because that is just how it works these days. Instagram generally is for younger people. That's who goes to it, and Facebook, just statistics show that this is how it works. So, okay, we have a couple more questions. I am out of time. If people want to email me, I'm happy to answer questions by email. You can find me at mrallbiz.com. That's mrallbiz.com. And I really enjoyed being with you today. Really enjoyed the opportunity from our friends at Verizon. So Melanie, back to you.
Thank you very much for that great presentation, Steve. If you missed parts of today's session or want to review it at any time, you can find the recording in our archive at verizon.com/webinar. Today's session will be uploaded soon, and I invite you to check out our library of past sessions. You can also find more useful information at our social media sites. Just search for Verizon Business Markets on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And when you need to make decisions about your business phone, broadband, cloud-based security and storage, or related communication needs, I invite you to visit us at verizon.com/business or call us at 1-800-VERIZON. We hope you will join us for our next webinar on May 23rd with Ramon Ray, Technology Evangelist, Editor, and Founder of Smart Hustle Magazine. Ramon returns to the webinar series to tell us why social content is quickly becoming the best sales tool. Ramon will share his proven principles for creating engaging content to grow sales. You will leave with practical tips to take your business to the next level in the world of social media. Watch for email reminders about the next session or visit verizon.com/webinar to register. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us. Have a great day, and I hope to see you here again next month.